You're gonna have to bear with me on this video because it's gonna be a little different from the videos that I normally do. For a long time now, I've been trying to run away from the daily news because I feel like it's really not just that it's a distraction. I think it's just mainly meant to impart anger and fear and to get people all angry and upset and fearful so they can live in that state, which makes you so much easier to control. The case in point would be last week when I did 2 videos, especially the United Airlines thing, which, I mean, at this point, I don't even know if half these things are real or not. I think that's the whole point of the whole fake news thing. Besides trying to shut down free speech and independent media, I think it's also to keep people completely confused about what's actually going on. It serves a purpose to do so. A lot of us had figured out that what we're told is going on is not actually what's happening at all. And so we're looking for patterns in static. We're trying to make things make sense where there seemingly is no sense. I don't know how anyone who actually believes all of the stuff they're being told out of their television set even functions anymore. So many things are happening so fast, and the average attention spans of people have gotten shorter. Microsoft did a whole study. They've been able to prove it. And there's just you're jumping so fast from one horrible event to another horrible event to another horrible event. People can't even keep track anymore. You can't even, if you sat and tried to care about each one, you would just shut down. And that's what's happening. People are just shutting down. I was going to do a video on the fact that they're running a simulated nuclear drill in New York City. And on the same day that they're running that simulated nuclear drill, which by the way is also an EMP drill, the power just so happened to go out, not just in New York City for a while in the subway system, but also you had power outages at the LA airport and a huge power outage in San Francisco, which I haven't checked, may or may not still be going on, but earlier in the afternoon, 90,000 people were without power in San Francisco, all on the same day that you have this drill going on. And since we know that drills sometimes go live, and this particular drill, Operation Gotham Shield, is supposed to be running between now and the first week of May. Since we know that, it's always good to keep watch on that. Know, at least in the back of your mind, that, oh, they are running a drill right now. And they always say the reason they do these things is, they leave the public compartmentalized in the dark the way we have been living under the national security state that was put in place after World War II that puts us all on a need-to-know basis, and they've decided most of us don't need to know. They say the reason they do stuff like that is to avert public panic, because public panic would be the worst thing.
We know that mass evacuation can never be permitted if only for one reason: the fact that every able-bodied person is needed in the city.
But not telling people makes them also scared, and in some cases they also panic. So maybe the panic inducement is part of the drill. I don't know. At the same time, they just keep reanimating the dead 50 times over corpse that is North Korea. The specter of North Korea is going to get you. They're sitting over there on floppy disks with internet websites that look like someone made them on Angel Fire. Bombs that go directly into the ocean and fail every time. But we're all supposed to be just shaking in our shoes at this man-child Kim Jong-un. It's ridiculous. It is. And the whole point of North Korea, in what I can tell, ever since the Korean War, has basically been a rent-a-scare in the area to justify American intervention and presence in the area. Anyway, so you have all these things going on, and what is the effect of those things going on? Well, the effect is everyone's freaking out that World War III is about to happen. And the media is pushing the idea that World War III is about to happen. Google searches for World War III have hit their highest peak ever, right? But now I'm going to say something that's just not going to be very popular, because everyone loves the internet. If we didn't have the internet, you wouldn't even be hearing what I had to say right now. I'm not saying the internet is all bad. I'm not saying any technology, well, for the most part. Technology is mostly neutral. But what if I told you that the internet is being used by the crazy psychopaths who are running things to inject concepts like this into the collective consciousness of everyone, to induce mass neuroses, to induce mass fear, to get us all to create what essentially are self-fulfilling prophecies. I'm going to show you something. If you haven't seen Google Trends, and that's what this is referencing here, Google searches, they went and did a search for Google Trends. If you go check out Google Trends and type in a search term, you can see when the peaks and lows are of everybody searching for that term. Here I've typed in 9/11. What you're looking at is the Google Trends chart for the search term 9/11 over the past 5 years. And what it looks like is an EKG. It looks like someone's heartbeat. The reason it looks like that is because every year, the week of September 11th, the week of 9/11, it peaks out at its highest peak. That makes sense, right? Because that's when everyone would be searching for 9/11 the most, is during the anniversary of 9/11, more than any other time. But if you go look up other terms, more general things like World War, which happened over a long period of time, you're going to see something more like this, where, you know, it goes up and it goes down. There's a huge peak here. If you go look at whatever happened during that week that probably scared people into thinking we're going to have another war or something, there's certainly bound to be something that happened. It's just I didn't go look at what it was. I'm just showing this so you can get an idea. This does not look nearly as organized and specific as this, because the world wars have happened. There's been more than one now. They were over a period of years, and so there's no specific thing that's going to peak that out more than others these days. I mean, I'm sure there's certain events that happened during each world war that people would search, but as a whole, as a group, as a human group of everyone who uses Google and searches for things, there's not going to be a specific set every year on this day. There's a huge peak, right? Because these are huge peaks. This is 100. Last year on 9/11, the search term 9/11 peaked at its highest for that whole time period. But you're not going to see stuff like that over here. Now I want you to look at this. This is the Google Trends chart for the last 5 years for the phrase Cold War. Now, the Cold War has been over for decades now. Supposedly it ended when I was a little girl. And there's talk that no, it never really ended, or it secretly is still going on today, or it's the Cold War 2.0, or it's the new Cold War. That's all beside the point too. Because what you're looking at is another heartbeat pattern for a search term that shouldn't have a heartbeat pattern. And what you'll notice about these peaks is it always happens in the middle of April through the middle to the end of May. It's about a 6-week period every year. People start really freaking out about the Cold War en masse worldwide. So like this year, for example, in 2013, the peak was April 14th to April 20th. In 2014, the peak was May 11th to May 17th. In 2015, it looks like it was between April 26th and May 2nd, all the way to May 10th to May 16th. 2016, it was May 1st to May 7th. So it's not even the same week every year. It's the same general time period. So what happens? Did we all just get the memo from Google worldwide? They just sent an email to all of us and said, hey, go look up the Cold War now. It's that time again. No, it means that every year they are injecting fear of the Cold War into everyone for a 6-week period of time. And it peaks out every year. And look how high, too. 100? That's a lot. That's the highest you can get on this chart for something that supposedly ended a really long time ago. No, they want people to think it never ended, and they want you to still be afraid of it, and they make sure that this gets injected every year. And if you actually look, there's a mini blip that happens in the November-December area every year as well. Sometimes there's a double blip, but it's another 6-week period every year in November and December that there's kind of a mini rise, and then the full one happens. So you have a mini freak out on the mass consciousness level in November, December, and then a huge one every year in this time period of April to May, when, by the way, historically a lot of false flags have taken place in this time period. Thoughts create reality. They really do. I have seen it happen so many times in my own life, And you've done it to yourself and not even realize it. How many times have you woken up in the morning and been like, oh, today is going to suck? And then what happens? Does the day suck? Yeah, that's because you said it was going to. There's some real power there, but we're not supposed to ever talk about that, right? I want to show you this. And then I'm going to wrap this up. And you're going to either decide that I'm completely insane, or you're going to see what I'm trying to say here. And I hope that I've said it in a way that makes any kind of sense at all. I think this chart sums it up really well. This is how reality is built. And yeah, I totally just said built. It's not random, chaotic chance that means nothing, and nothing you do means anything, and nothing anyone thinks or says means anything, and it's all random and pointless, and we're just floating out in the random nowhere where nothing means anything. That's what they'd like you to think. They sure would. It makes you so much easier to control if you do. However, that's just really not how things work at all. It just isn't. Not in my life. I've seen it. I've seen the power of it, okay? Personally. You start with knowledge, or lack thereof, because ignorance definitely breeds fear. You start with the available information. This constitutes the potential knowledge that may be gathered, processed, understood, and acted upon by individuals. That is why people like Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google's parent company they've now changed to Alphabet, who goes to Bilderberg, that's why he talks about how they have the most powerful information system ever built in modern human times. Because they have all the power, because that's what the information is. It used to be he who controls the oil or he who controls the food. But these days, it's he who controls the information.
I do understand that Google ranks information and there's winners and losers, and those decisions have significant impact on people.
Because Google definitely has the power and control of censoring information and manipulating what people see or don't see on the web. And that's huge. And he knows it, and he said so himself, and I've done videos where I've shown the clips. So you start with the available information that can be gathered, processed, understood, and acted upon by individuals. And that goes into the next step, which is understanding, or lack thereof, once again, the decision-making process, which is based on this information. This takes place in the human mind, and it's chosen by each individual based upon the information available to them. So if you're sitting around on a couch all day watching CNN tell you about how Assad is a scary monster and we have to go to war and blow him up, and oh my God, North Korea is going to bomb us all and we're all going to die because China this and Russia that, then you're going to be living in perpetual fear. And anything that the government does in the name of that fear, you will support. And you're going to be much more supportive of bombing wherever, locations most people probably can't even point out on a map if they try. They don't even care. Sure, bomb them all, because I'm afraid. They're going to get me. Bomb them all. I'm scared. And support mass genocide and preemptive regime change, drone strike wars, and depleted uranium being unleashed upon. It's disgusting, the number of things, the atrocities, the human rights violations that will be supported by people who are continuously kept in a state of total fear. But that's what happens. And you go to stage 3, wisdom, again, or lack thereof. Human behavior, each individual's behavior is based upon the quality of their decision-making processes, which in turn are based upon the quality of the available information. So once again, if all you're living on is a steady diet of mainstream media fear porn and government war propaganda, then what are you going to take away from that? What is your behavior going to be like in relation to that? And that, in turn, goes to the final block. The generated result, order or chaos. The manifested reality. The quality of the condition which manifests in any society is based upon the aggregate quality of behavior within that society. Behavior that is based upon the quality of the available information. The information which is being controlled via the World Wide Web, which was created by DARPA and militarized before it ever came to the consumer. It's a hive mind. The web is being used as a digital hive mind. It's the matrix. They've embedded everyone into it. And now they're herding it like a digital hive mind. And that is how reality is now being built. They are getting us to not only consent to, but to help manifest horrible realities based on lies, psychological manipulation, and ultimately our fear. And if you spend all your life living in fear and based on lies, you'll never get to a point where you could actually ponder a chart like this long enough to realize how much power you as an individual actually do have in your own reality. They are herding everyone like a digital hive mind. There's a reason they call this the World Wide Web.